Hi, this is the Marketing with Delight podcast. I am your host, Delight Howley, and this is my very first episode ever. So, I want to start out by just telling you my story of my entrepreneurial journey in marketing, advertising, et cetera, et cetera. I've done a lot of different things. And I'm also want to tell you why I'm starting this podcast and how this is going to be different than other marketing podcasts you might have listened to. So I'll actually tackle those two things first. Why am I starting this podcast? Well, I was puttering around my house on a Saturday morning. My husband's at work and I was ready. I just was struck with inspiration and I was ready to start. I just have thought about it for so long. It's like it's been cooking, it's been in the oven on low and all of a sudden the oven dinged and it's done and it's ready. So I just sat down and decided to start recording. So here we are. Um, I just, I guess it's taken a while to get the confidence to speak about my experiences and my expertise and feel that I even have expertise to share, but I know that I do and it could be helpful for other people and it could, be a fun project for me and create community and all that good stuff that leads me into why this is different than other marketing podcasts because relationships are really important to me and I want to work with clients and also have listeners, followers who also treat people like human beings. I think that we forget that sometimes in marketing. We treat people like numbers or like a conversion, and we do these kind of crafty mind trickery things where you give people, oh, what is that called? It's like you give people a false dichotomy is what it's called, where there's like two choices. And if you do one, you'll succeed forever. If you do the other, you'll fail forever. And, that type of copywriting and marketing is not true. There's almost always a third choice. So anyway, we can talk more about those types of things, those examples. I've just been noticing that like I don't really listen to any marketing podcasts all that much at this point because they make me feel kind of stressed. Like I should be doing everything all the time. And I definitely don't want that to be the case here. I want to tell stories and just talk about what's working. I think I'd love to always give a caveat of like, you don't have to do anything, like, don't let any of my content or episodes distract you from the most important things that are working for you in your business. I definitely have stories about that where I switched gears in the middle of a launch and had horrible results because I was like, oh, I'm going to do this all on Instagram, but I hadn't been doing anything on Instagram. Anyway, so I don't want to make you think that you need to completely change what you're doing and do something that I'm telling you about because it's working for me. Like, no, like just check in with yourself and always follow your gut and your own instincts with that. And I think, I want to have the confidence to create this podcast and I want you to have the confidence to create whatever you're creating as well. And I just believe in you. I want you to believe in yourself. I want to believe in myself as much as I believe in you. And I hope that I will be able to get myself there by talking about it on this podcast. I will be inviting guests to come onto this podcast who are aligned and want to be authentic, want to really speak to people like people with their business and their marketing and want to offer something uplifting, inspiring, solves a really interesting problem. So all those types of guests I love to meet and talk with, especially women. I have talked a lot about lady boss and boss babe and all these things that women get called in business. And I don't really love any of them, but I do find it's useful for women to connect and talk to each other about how we do business because it is sometimes different than how men might approach it because we are different creatures. And of course, non-binary folks are welcome as well. It doesn't matter what gender you are, but I do tend to connect with women. I think I'm a girl's girl. I grew up with 3 brothers, and I've always sought out other women as friends. And so that just kind of spills into my work as well. I'd say 95% of my clients have been women. I think I've worked with one straight man in 5 years out of, I don't know, 50, 60 clients or something like that. One time. Other than that, it's been women, some queer folks, trans folks, different, all kinds of different people. And I'd love to get some of them on the podcast as well to talk about their experiences. So anyway, my point is, if you are interested in being interviewed on this podcast, you can reach out to me at my Instagram, Marketing with Delight. Follow me over there and send me a DM. Let me know what you'd like to talk about and why you could offer some good perspective on your entrepreneurial journey, your marketing success, like what works for you individually, that feels good to you, that aligns with your energy. What are you doing that's working to inspire others to do their own method? Or maybe even they can borrow something from what you're doing. So those are the types of guests I would love to have. And I invite you to DM me if you're interested. Okay, so let's get into my story. I don't want to go on too long about myself, but I have done a lot of entrepreneurial ventures and marketing and advertising adventures. And so we'll see if I can keep this short and sweet, reasonably so. So yes, my name is Delight. That is my real name. My mom picked it out for me. I grew up on a cattle ranch in Montana. I currently live in Montana, about an hour and a half away from my parents, are still on the ranch. So that's actually that's my origin story of my entrepreneurial beginnings. My family is 4th generation in that, living in that land. And my grandpa really had a big entrepreneurial spirit. And I like to think I take after him. He just turned 90 in February. He's still with us. And my husband gave me the nicest compliment the other day. He said that I'm the most like my grandpa of any of between me and any of my siblings. And I thought that was such a compliment. So he's really inspired me. And then my dad as well, being a rancher and having his own business. And I just saw how he had, agriculture is really, really busy and difficult work. And you can have some flexibility. Like, you are your own boss, though. Well, maybe the cattle are your boss. But for example, like my dad could go, if he needed to go to the doctor or the dentist, or just wanted to take go into town and pick up some parts, he could leave, run here and there and everywhere. And I remember being shocked when I was, 10 years old or something, talked to my aunt who had a job in California at an office. And it's like, you only have 2 weeks of vacation a year. You go to that office every single day and you sit there. And I was like, no, thanks. That doesn't sound great for me. So I always was like, I don't think office life is for me. And I definitely tried it and didn't like it. Like, I knew this from when I was young, but I kind of went down this path and tried it anyway. And then was like, okay, I was right the first time. So that would actually apply to a lot of things I've tried in my career. So the reason that I am, feeling confident to start a podcast is like, I'm always changing my mind, or I haven't now for the last 5 years. I've been doing marketing with Delight, and I think I've landed on something that feels right to me. And I was reminiscing on, like, why is it that this feels like the right thing after I've tried so many other types of things? And I was just thinking, especially advertising has always been something I was interested in. It was probably one of the number one things I would say when I was a kid that I wanted to do was advertising. And my mom tells this story when I was a little kid, like 2 or younger. There was the movie Annie had just come out. and there was a commercial with the song Tomorrow, Tomorrow. And I loved it. And I guess I would run to my room and get a blanket and pillow, run back, lay down, try to get all cozy and listen to the song. And by the time I got back, it was over and I would cry. So I just loved I loved that commercial that played that song, and I wanted to get so cozy and just like lay there and let it all wash over me. And I that's my first kind of memory connected to advertisement and commercial. Um so then kind of as I continued, I always just enjoyed watching TV. My parents would want to mute the commercials and I'd be like, but I want to watch it. Like I always was just so fascinated with commercials, and especially ones that were clever. And I honestly still feel that way, even though now we have DVRs and all these things where we can skip so many commercials. Like a lot of times I will sit there and listen to them because or watch, and I'm interested. I'm like, oh, what is this, what are they talking about? Maybe it's gonna be something clever. So I've always been into that. When I went to college, I decided to major in communication studies because I thought, maybe that would work with advertising, which it absolutely has. That was a great choice of major. I really recommend that for people who are wondering what they want to do with their lives. Communication studies was a great major for me. It's helped me a lot. It helped me become a much better writer, which has just been helpful in everything I've done. I also had a business minor, so I learned a lot about economics, which has been helpful. And I had a Spanish minor, which I don't use a lot at the moment, but I have used it a lot. It did turn into an entrepreneurial venture for me because I became a Spanish tutor for a good many years. I was a Spanish teacher as well. I guess I'm getting ahead of myself, but anyway, so that's where I kind of started learning Spanish. When the high school I went to was so small that we did not have any language classes at all. And I always wanted to learn another language. So I started Spanish, and then I did a semester abroad in Costa Rica and was able to speak it, very conversationally, somewhat fluently. So then what did I do? I graduated from college, got a job at a radio station. I wasn't making ads, but I was scheduling ads. So I was ad adjacent, and it's definitely not the part of advertising I wanted to be doing, but it was, one of those first jobs out of school, and I got to hang out with my college friends for a little bit longer. And then I went and taught English abroad because I always was interested in education and wondered if I should be a teacher. My grandma always told me I would be a teacher. And I thought, well, I'll go volunteer for 6 months as a teacher and see if I like that better. So I thought I wanted to be a teacher then. I thought about getting a master's in linguistics, which I honestly almost wish I had done. Maybe I will one day. I love linguistics. I'm super nerdy that way. So then I moved to Denver because my brothers were living there and a couple friends from college were there too. And I ended up getting involved with an MLM called Primerica, which is definitely an episode I think I'll be doing in the future. I didn't even tell my husband about this experience until our getaway for our first wedding anniversary. I never told him the story of the MLM that I was in. I told him everything else about my life, I think, but I just felt, for one, it wasn't relevant really. So it didn't come up in our conversations. But I was just listening to podcasts about MLMs and thinking about my own experiences. And I was like, wow. I learned a lot from that experience for sure. I think I learned a lot about sales, to be honest, but it was a rough time, and I would not recommend ever to anyone. So yeah, we may talk about that more in the future. So let's see, that didn't work out. So then I went to Taiwan and taught English, not as a volunteer, but actually getting paid. So I decided to become a teacher at this point, and I went to Taiwan, started an online master's degree in education, worked on my master's, taught in Taiwan, lived there for a little over a year, came home, finished my master's, went into teaching, and I taught Spanish for several years. And it really was not, I don't know, it wasn't for me. Like, and ironically, I mean, I already said this, I kind of knew that. I knew that teaching wasn't really my jam. I just almost had to prove to myself that I could do it, or I just had to know for sure, you know? So I want to forgive myself for that. You know, I still have debt from my master's degree in education that I'm not technically using at this point, although I do like to teach people things. I mean, I think, you know, it's never hurt me to get that degree, but at the same time, I'm like not a teacher anymore. Although I do still have a license in the state of Colorado that I could use in the future if I needed to, if I wanted to go back that direction. So, I guess I'll say, as far as my entrepreneurial journey and marketing, being a teacher paid very poorly. As it does. And I wanted to have a middle class lifestyle. I was living in Denver, which is not the cheapest place ever. And so I took on some entrepreneurial stuff on the side. A lot of it was Spanish tutoring. I had a lot of different students I would work with after school. And the other thing I did was I started an Etsy shop to sell my crocheted hats. And then I turned into designing patterns for crocheted hats and scarves and other objects like that. And so I still have my Etsy shop today, actually. It is called Crochet with Delight. And it has been an awesome little passive income uh, thing for me. I mean, it's like it's so funny. Anyway, so that's probably, you know, could be another episode for the future, is my Etsy shop and how that works. And I still make like a couple $1,000s a year usually from that without doing anything. Because you know, it's been up there for over 10 years. I started it in 2011. So that helped me a lot. I had really good success with that. Somebody from Dropbox actually contacted me and had me make like 60 hats on kind of a rush order and paid me, I think it was almost like a couple $1,000s for the project. And so that got me excited about being an entrepreneur. And I was really like, yes, I don't want to teach. I want to do this or something like it. So I joined B School that year. This was 2014. If you're familiar with B School, it's Marie Forleo's kind of flagship course. And it was helpful, I thought. For me, it kind of put things together that I had been observing and wondering about online business. Like, I had been thinking for years I wanted an online business. I had an online business, and I just was like, how do I take this to the next level? So, um, I also, oh yeah, and I also started a YouTube channel at that time. I still make money from YouTube ads as well. I think I made like $500 last year from YouTube ads, and I haven't posted a YouTube video in like 2 years. You know, these types of things aren't supposed to work. You're not really supposed to be able to make money from YouTube if you don't post regularly. But you know what? You can. It's not a ton of money, but I'm not going to say no, you know? And I'm sure I'm like, I can't even watch those YouTube videos. They're embarrassing. It's probably how I'm going to feel about this episode as well. So that was my crochet stuff. Like I said, it's still going. I have kind of like focused on it and made more content here and there. It was hard for me to really make an entire career out of it because the price point for what I'm selling is so small for PDF patterns. It's very scalable because they don't have to actually, you know, it's all delivered electronically, and I can sell as many patterns as people want to buy, but they're $5 each. So that just, you know, that's a lot of customers and a lot of sales to make, you know, 100 grand a year in revenue, or, you know, whatever goal I wanted to have. So I was like, oof, this is going to be tough times. I don't know if this is going to be, you know, this is a nice little side income. So when I quit my teaching job in 2015, The next thing I went into was actually working in spirituality. I was working as doing intuitive readings. I was learning about angels, talking about angels, how to connect with them, meditation, all this types of stuff. I was really into that and exploring that and sharing with people and doing readings. Got really into tarot cards and oracle cards. And so that was all fun. I learned so much from that. I started to get to know a lot of people from B school through that, and has been a really good way to connect with other entrepreneurs, was to be in that program. And eventually that for me got frustrating. I don't know, something just wasn't fitting. About a couple years later, so it was 2017, I had given it a really good go for 2 years, and I was like, oh, that was how I first learned Facebook ads. Of course, that's important to say. I had a course on meditation, and I ran a webinar, and I advertised the webinar. This was 2016, so Facebook ads, I think, were a little cheaper and easier than they are now in some ways. But I was able to build my email list to a couple thousand people, and I was able to sell my courses. And I didn't really know what I was doing. Looking back, I was quite successful, but I didn't feel like I was. Like, I think my goals were bigger than, I didn't have the perspective I have now. Like, it went well, but I did get frustrated with it. I think I gave up too soon. I changed tactics. I don't know. I haven't really processed all of that. That could be a whole other episode. I think that, I remember wanting to start teaching people how to do Facebook ads when I had so much success. That was just the way my energy was taking me. But I'm like, well, no, I'm doing meditation and spirituality. I'm not doing advertising. But like a year later, 2017, I had been in Facebook groups connecting with people for a couple years at this point. So when I put out a post and said, hey, I'm thinking about offering Facebook ad services. Would anybody be interested in working with me on some Facebook ads? And I had so many people. Like, the next day, I had people booking calls and talking to me about it. And I started, and I've really never looked back. That's been almost 5 years ago. Still doing Facebook ads, also doing Instagram ads now. And I'm in the process of learning Google ads as well, to have on the side as another option for folks to get their message out there into the world. So that does bring us up to the present day. I've definitely I am what Marie Forleo calls a multi-passionate entrepreneur. I have tried so many different things and changed my mind many times, but I have settled here for the last 5 years, and that has felt good for sure. So I just want to land this plane and just wanted to share my honest experience and story. And I'll get more into detail on some of these juicy ones, like the MLM, the Etsy shop, YouTube, these different types of things I've tried and done and my experiences with them. I just don't want anyone to feel like you have to pick one thing and stick with it forever. And I don't want people to feel ashamed if you have changed or pivoted your business, because I do feel ashamed about that sometimes, but I don't want to, and I don't want you to either. I want you to know that you have so many options for growing your business, marketing your business, connecting with people. Everything works. It's just picking the thing that works best for you. For me right now, Facebook groups for years now has consistently been one of my best ways to connect with people. But I'm starting to feel like maybe that's going to be shifting. I've been a lot more into Instagram lately. I've been making reels, which will be another topic, because I think that's been really fun and interesting to play with reels right now on Instagram. And I wanted to start this podcast. I just want to diversify from Facebook and even from Instagram, because I want to diversify from Meta owned, properties virtual properties. Is that a thing that we say? I'm not sure. Anyway, I want to diversify my outreach and my audience, and this feels good and it feels fun, and that's why I'm doing it. So that's just what I want to encourage you to do as well. Do the things that feel good and feel fun and feel easy, and that's how you can be successful. If you want to feel like you enjoy your life, if you enjoy your business, you enjoy your work, that is successful to me. And so doing things like this that are fun and easy and flow feels great to me, and it feels extremely successful. And I want you to find those things as well. So I hope to inspire you. I hope that you feel accepted for wherever you are in the journey, whatever mistakes you've made in the past. I will be talking about lots of my mistakes that I've made, what I might do differently, and just, it happened. These are things that happen to everybody. And I think we talk about, oh, I made 6 figures and this, and I made 7 figures, all these. We tell all of these big success stories, which is great. And I've had success stories, of course, but I don't think we are honest about what's really hard with being an entrepreneur and a business owner. And I would like to create a space for that here. So yeah, I said I was going to try to land this plane, and I'm struggling to land it because this is my first episode. I'm also a fan of Brene Brown, and she has an acronym. What is it? FFT, for fucking first time. I think she introduced that on her very first podcast episode. And I've always tried to remind myself of that, to be gentle with myself, give myself grace. It's the fucking first time. So that's why I can't land this plane. It's my fucking first time. And I'm just going to do it and say goodbye. Thanks for listening. Find me on Instagram at Marketing with Delight, and I will talk to you soon.